Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity.
And I'm your host, Jason Noble. And with me today, I have the ever-present and always engaging Andy, the man merchant. Thank you, Andy, for coming back on. It's just always fun to do these conversations, not just in front of a camera, but with my good friend, best friend in the industry. I love how in sync we are and how we challenge each other, always get better. But this is to wrap up the series around wealth and lifestyle protection, talking about something that most people don't like talking about. So what do? Let's just throw it on the podcast. That would be great. That'll get a lot of engagement around, okay, now we're going to talk about what happens when you die and all the taxes and all that fun stuff. And so we have the Tax Cut and Job Act expiring at the end of 2025. So that's going to change in 2026. That's also going to be changing what's going on with estate planning and taxes and things of that nature. So, Andy, what are you seeing when you're working with your clients and working within your community with regards to this important thing that's coming up on wealth and lifestyle protection, and it's the transfer tax?
Well, no, this is actually, it's the toughest topic to talk about with clients, just because most people struggle. Obviously, we all do with the money after we're not here anymore. But the reality is that we're taking risk. Like, what I'm talking to clients about is that you're taking this risk, to achieve your lifestyle goal. But then are you taking additional risk? And if you're going to have money left over, which most of our clients, most people, honestly, pass away with assets. And so it's really a matter of, are we having the conversation around what does it look like when you do pass and your wealth does transfer onto the next generation? Are we making sure you're retaining as much of that, right? We don't want clients, I tell clients all the time, don't take the unnecessary risk to grow your assets if you don't really have a plan of where that goes, because not having a plan or not having a discussion, it actually brings in what I tell all my clients. You do have another child out there. It's called the U.S. tax code. And, if you want to include that into your estate plan, it's fine. The difference is they're already included, right? Without you wanting them or not. And I think this discussion right now, of course, things could change between now and 2026. It's very driven by the tax cut. But let me just start with an educational comment right now that currently what most people don't understand is that if you're married or you're filing joint returns, you have the first one, we'll call it 26, almost $27 million of your estate value, what's personally owned by you, does not have to be, is not subject to estate tax. Right, Jason? Most people aren't going to go, well, I'm going to tune off. I don't need, that doesn't apply to me, right? $27 million, that puts you at the, one of the top 1%. If you're single, just for number's sake, that's $13.4 million. Still a pretty good chunk of dough, right? All great and dandy. Hasn't been a lot of discussion. Hasn't been a lot of podcast on this topic because of that large number. But here's what's going to set to happen in current law today. Now, again, things could change, but it is set today that on January 1st, 2026, that number is going to set to reset. It's going to go back to the baseline of $5 million for individual, 10 for couples, and then they adjust it for all these other inflation calculations. So consensus is my numbers here for everybody to know is that on January 1st, 2026, just take that 26 million, cut it in half, take that 13.4 and cut it in half. So now we're down to that 13 million and roughly 6.5 million. A lot more people just got brought into the estate tax equation, right? So I think it's important that we address that, because that's where your unknown child or your known child is brought into the equation and being the U.S. tax. So that's why we're here today. We just wanted to hit up a little bit, make people aware that that's out there. And the reality is most people, Jason, cannot do enough advanced estate planning that's optimal in the tax planning codes to adjust up in quick enough time to make that happen. So that's what we're talking about, is just making people aware that it could be here.
So it's getting in front of a pending problem that we definitely see coming towards us. So what would someone do, right? Let's say that they do have an estate that's in excess of what you just said, and they're going to be subject to this estate tax. What could they do if they care about it? Because if they don't care about it, right, well, then they don't have to do anything, right? Yeah. They could just let their beneficiaries suffer the tax implications and everything. But let's say they go, no, I'm going to be facing that kind of situation. What do I need to do? What would be some of those key things?
Well, number one, I tell everybody that is projected to have an estate tax of some level. It's very first thing is call your attorney. Call an estate attorney. Sit down, explain your situation. They may have a way to accelerate. There's some ways to accelerate we won't go into on this podcast. That's something that's very unique. But there's ways that you can maximize some of the larger limits today if you are projected to be there. So first step, call your attorney. Right, Jason, we work with a lot of clients that are like, well, I don't have an estate attorney. I don't know what to ask them. That's where we come into play. That's where our Clear Picture Wealth program helps our clients. That if we know that that's a need of yours, we actually have a way that we sit down and we have those conversations. So that's the first step, though, is talk to your attorney in conjunction with our team or on your own and say, what do you guys think? What's your strategy? That's number one. Number two is that, and probably the easy thing that I am recommending people to do right now is, go get some recapture planning done. And I call recapture, it's a fancy word for just go buy some life insurance. I call it recapture because we're not protecting your life. We're trying to recapture some of the taxes you're going to have to pay so your beneficiaries can still have some of that liquidity. So those are really the two big ones that we're discussing right now because we do want to reduce the impact that you could have of lost wealth, our series here, right, due to taxes, just on the wealth and the risk that you've taken throughout your life. So those are the two big ones that I'm telling them.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And for those that are watching and listening, think about this. Like if you have a rather large, let's say, property that you didn't properly prepare for one reason or another, you felt like you could live forever, maybe. I don't know. That's for you to know. Yeah. And for that property then to be transferred, I'm not talking about the property you live in. I'm talking about an investment property, right? It's going to create a lot of tax implications because it's being transferred to the next, let's say the next kin. Okay. Well, there's a step 2 basis that's going to be accounted for, right? But then they want to sell it. They don't want to deal with toilets, termites, and tenants, right? They want to sell it. And then they have to pay taxes on that sale. By doing like a proper insurance policy, the money they get from the insurance policy, which is tax-free, by the way, right? Mm-hmm. They're able to use that tax-free money to pay the taxes on this. So therefore, there's the recapture that Andy was talking about. I love taking Andy-isms and breaking it down into numbers.
Yeah. But I think you made a good point too, Jason, as you mentioned, that it's perfect timing, is that what a lot of people don't know, is that if you do have a large life insurance policy, let's say you have a $5 million life insurance policy because you're protecting an asset, right? Yes, it's tax-free to those that receive it from any kind of income, but it still goes into your estate calculation unless it's properly designed into a special trust that would move it off your estate. So a key feature is that a lot of clients will come in, like, let's put some real numbers here, Jason. I think people move with numbers, right? Let's say, all right, I got a $5 million estate. Let's just use it real simple. Married couple, they got a $5 million, $10 million. Let's just use $10 million estate. Okay. And they're going, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and buy into what you guys are talking about. Let me go put some insurance on that. And they go off in between combined insurance. Let's just say they have $5 million. Okay. They pass away, their estate gets $5 million of additional benefits. What that just did now is took their estate from $10 million and not using the future numbers of estate taxes to now $15 million using our projected calculations. Now they have an estate tax problem, right?
Yeah,
most people don't know
$3 million. Yeah. And so unless they're working with a qualified professional, not an insurance agent that just wants to get the commission on the insurance. No, they're working with a qualified professional that understands how all these different pieces work together to create that whole entire puzzle to then create that, I don't know, clear picture. Go figure, Andy, right?
Yes. Yep.
No, let's tee up step up in basis. I mentioned it. Can you take my Jasonism now and then turn it into like an example and a story of like how that plays into account?
Well, I loved your Jasonism there, because you hit the nail on the head with it, is that, we have a lot of clients that have, assets of different level. Now, everybody listening and viewing, take away all the assets that have a beneficiary designation to the Jasonism story here, right? So if you have retirement accounts, IRAs, those have beneficiaries. Those don't qualify for step up in basis. We're going to hit on that here in a short, so don't tune away too far. But what Jason's talking about are those after tax accounts, those brokerage accounts that you have. He mentioned real estate, or what we call less liquid assets. Maybe I'm here in Kansas. Jason, I know you've got other unique assets, but farm ground is a huge part of a family estate, right? And we have found in our story, most of our clients' children don't want to go work on the farm anymore, right? Now, most clients that are farmers, those that are listening to farmers, know and resonate with this, is that you're generally defined as asset rich, cash poor. So let's just say, in that story, you have an asset that doesn't, that's a good family asset. Son or daughter doesn't want to work with it. Maybe you want to sell it. But then if you sell it today, you have to pay tax on it because you're still alive, right? What Jason's talking about is maybe you start to look at the assets that you own and start to say, okay, what are going to be my legacy assets that could be subject to step up in basis? So if you own a piece of property that you've owned and maybe you paid $1 million for the ground, now it's worth $3 million, or maybe you bought a home, a rental home that was $150,000, and with this wonderful boom in real estate, now it's worth $500,000 or $600,000. You don't want to pay that tax gain. So as long as you hold it until your death, and then you identify, you get this wonderful step up in basis benefit. But you need to have the conversations with the family on what they want to do with that, because there could be other options of exchanging, property like that. But too often, as I say in my wrap up, and I know Jason, you'll make this a lot clearer. You have to look. We tell clients all the time, you have to kind of start to break your assets down with a transfer in mind, because if you don't, you may be investing, putting investment strategies into certain accounts that may be better off in other accounts, right? So if you want growth and you don't need the money and it's in an investment account, put your growth accounts. If you don't have a Roth, I know, Jason, you're huge on Roth IRAs because those are a way better benefit. But if you got an after-tax account that you could put into growth and not take income from, that's a way better account to transfer to your beneficiaries, assuming you're under the state tax limit, because it all benefits from that step-up tax. So you have to kind of look at your risk profile and your transition benefit.
Yeah, you got a long-term time horizon, and let's say you buy a stock, and that stock has grown significantly over time. Let's say your average price per share is coming in at $10, and now it's trading at, I don't know, 250. Okay, yes, that does happen. It does happen, right? Okay, so what happens in the event that you pass away? Well, it's going to be who's your beneficiary. And how do you hold the position today? So if I held that with my wife, Rachel, okay, then half of it, my half, will get the step 2 basis from $10 up to $250 a share. The other half stays at 10, okay, just in case you were wondering. But what if I just held it myself and my primary beneficiary was Rachel, and then my contingent beneficiaries were per stirpes, or was my kids 50-50, right? Let's say we did that as contingents. Well, then if I passed away, this is not if, it's just a matter of when. Right, geez, okay. This is making everybody happy now. Okay, when I pass away and let's say the stock is at 250, well, now my wife gets it at $250 a share. She could sell that rather immediately and have all that gain absolved from having that even coming into a tax implication. Mm-hmm. So same thing with the children. If my wife and I pass away rather quickly, let's say an accident or something, then it goes to the children with the step 2 basis. And then they get half of that because 50-50. Let's say I love them equally, because I do. Then they get it at $250 a share. That was a good joke for the parents out there, right?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, we love everyone equally. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This one causes me anxiety.
Yeah, but now me being the financial advisor in my family, I tell my dad, hey, just make sure you leave all the after-tax accounts to me, and you leave all the taxable, the retirement accounts to my sister, so right, she can deal with the tax problem. I get the maximum wealth, but it's fair on the transfer book.
But it's easy. We love each other easily, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because that comes into asset location.
Yeah.
Now let's say that was on a taxable account, which was what we've just been talking about. Now I'm going to switch the conversation to a traditional IRA or a rollover IRA. I did a great job. I bought $10. It's at $250. This is awesome. And I die. Well, if it goes to my wife, she's going to be okay because she could just do required minimum distributions off of her life expectancy when she needs to do the RMDs, as long as it's done the right way to the spousal IRA, right? Like going into the spousal inheritance. Now, what if it goes to the children? Well, if it goes to the children, they got to withdraw all that money within 10 years. And not only do they have to withdraw all that money in 10 years, they got to pay ordinary income taxes on that money over those 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're working at the same time, they got their income coming in. Now they got this other money that they may not need, but they got to take it out within the 10 years, right? And then it's just creating more tax implications. I mean, one of the analysis that I did for a couple recently, so I got to think of like recent conversations to keep it as relevant and timely as possible. How their children's income is, they're highly paid individuals. The children are. We're looking around 45 to 50% being taxed on the distributions just because of their high income brackets. Now, I don't know your sister's finances, and I don't care. Let's not talk about that. But let's just say Andy's sister is not making high income, and she's at a lower income. Let's say she's at the 10% bracket. Well, she has to do those distributions from those IRAs over 10 years. It's not going to hurt maybe Andy's other sibling, which I don't think he has, but let's just say he does for this. His other sibling that's a high income earner that's in the 38% bracket, right? No. So this is a conversation with Andy's parents in this example of going, let's put the IRA money towards the sister. Let's take this other money and put that towards the brother for these reasons, and everybody's still happy. It's just they're not like what we don't want to have happy in this conversation is the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to go, gosh darn it, like they had great financial advisors that cost us this much money in tax revenue. And they did it legally and they did it right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, you said I love the Roth. I love it. I love your projection because I know you like the Roth too. But let's talk about the Roth. They still got 10 years to take the money out. I'm talking about the kiddos here. Okay. They got 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have them touch the money. What we do is that, let's say an IRA that's inherited is at $1 million, a Roth IRA. You get $1 million Roth IRA inherited. Don't touch it. Just don't touch it until the 10th year. And the reason why, if you just look at compounding rate of return with historical market numbers, let's say that $1 million, just using historical data, grows to $2 million. It doubles over that 10 year, meaning it's about a 7% rate of return, which is pretty conservative, but okay. It's within the line of a reasonable assumption. Now they withdraw the $2 million. Do they pay taxes on that $2 million? No, so they don't pay taxes on that $1 million in growth that they got. No. So they get that $2 million tax free. And then what do they do with that $2 million? That's when they could create a family legacy plan for the multiple generations, their existing generation, right below them, the children, multiple generations from the hard work that you did today because you planned ahead. Go figure.
Yeah.
Keeping more money in the family, less than going to Uncle Sam.
Well, I love
that's how you create multi-generational wealth.
Yeah, you've taken us through this wonderfully, path of journey, and like I think the call to action here for those that are watching and viewing, and the whole theme of today's wrap up of wealth protection is that we've talked through the other episodes and the other shows about some of the strategic ones, but at the end of the day, the call to action is you have to have that transfer plan in mind. A big part of the Clear Picture Wealth program, right, Jason, is the legacy wealth discussion component. If you don't have one, I can promise you on the scoring method, you're going to go really low because we find it so important that you have this conversation for all of the reasons that were outlined here and Jason elegantly put together. Maybe you do Roth conversions, earlier and accelerate. Talk about your family wealth and say, okay, what are my kids' capability? What are they doing? Do I have charitable gifting? Do I have unique assets that I don't want to sell, or do I have, better yet, I know we're running close on time, do I have an asset that I want to hold for tax benefits today? But here's the thing: if it's in a volatile segment, if it's a volatile asset, you might want to sell it now and pay taxes, because step up in basis at a lower number is a whole lot less than paying taxes and having a little more control. So the reality is that if you don't have a plan around your wealth transfer, then I don't think any of those risk profiles make any sense at all, because you're adjusting risk for today, not knowing what the impact's going to be tomorrow. And I can promise you, Jason, most of our clients, right, are out there going, hey man, if I made that extra $1 million and I knew that I was going to have to, because of that growth, I'd have to give the government 400,000 on that growth. Or if I don't properly plan for what's going to sunset, I could go from maybe a $300,000 or $500,000 estate tax to a $6 million estate tax, which is, by the way, the difference of what this drop could do. Like, if you knew that going into it, wouldn't you sit there and say, wow, I need to get some insight, right? Let's walk through it. And I think that's kind of my final call to action, is that's why we built the Clear Picture Wealth Program. If you go to clearpicturefinancial.com, two things. One, we just launched it, right? So super excited that we have this brand new educational website. Go out and check it out. It's got a way to connect with Jason and I's team. We offer the Clear Picture analysis right now at no cost to go through the program with us initially to see if it's a fit. Then we'll talk about how we implement it and how our structures work. But don't chance your wealth. Don't bring in the government any more than they need to be from a tax code. So that's my call: is don't wait. There's things that are sunsetting coming up. Call us today. We want to help.
You heard it right here from Andy. Don't chance your wealth. Get a Clear Picture financial review to see where you are today and where you want to be, and take some proactive measurements to put yourself in a better financial situation. You just watched and listened to 20 Minutes of Clarity. I'm Jason Noble, and that is Andy Merchant, and we'll be back next week going into even more topics that are just as important. That's mainstream, but equally important into the financial future. More to come.